Hey folks, welcome to the Porch Podcast. My name is Stephanie Quick with Frontier Alliance International, and I'm sitting here with my neighbor, David. And you guys met David in a couple other videos, but we're going to get to know him a little bit and hear what life is like for an Israeli family on the northern front. How's it going?
Could have been better. Could go better, but for the past 9 months, when people ask me how's it going, I say shit. I'm David, and I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I moved to Israel as an infant, as a 3-year-old child with my parents and my brothers and sisters in the early 70s out of true Zionism. And I've been riding horses and working cattle all my life in Israel and in the States.
When you say true Zionism, your family moved here out of true Zionism. What was in your parents' hearts when they uprooted their family from Chicago and came to a country where you guys had to learn a new language?
Well, my parents in the late 60s were active in organizations that was called Young Jews for Israel. And after the city of Jerusalem was united and we freed the city, my parents came on a mission to Israel, and my mom put a note in the Western Wall that she wants to raise her kids in Israel. And they moved here in 1972 out of the thought that if they wanted to help the Jewish nation, the best way to do it is raise their kids here. So me, my brothers, and my sisters, we all were raised in Jerusalem. We all served in the military. And we're all scattered now around. My sisters are in Jerusalem. I have a brother that moved back to LA. And I'm up in the Golan Heights on the border between Lebanon and Syria.
So Chicago and Jerusalem are both cities. How did you ever survive in a city?
In early days when I was 13 years old, I used to nick donkeys from their villages around town. Jerusalem was a town then. And when I was 14, I moved out to the villages because I heard there's horses there, and at a very early age, I knew my mission in life.
Yeah, and you've been cowboying ever since?
Ever since.
Wow. So we met David in April because you'd been riding out with the horses in the pasture around here, and you'd seen some craters, and you told me early on, I mean, we're, 9.5 months post October 7th. You told me early on one of your primary concerns with the war opening up in the north, or even just in this kind of ping pong game that we've been in for 9.5 months with Hezbollah in the north, was wildfires. And you had found all of these, like, Hezbollah rockets, drones, shrapnel things that were falling in the fields, and you were concerned that we would have wildfires. So you had come to us and said, hey, we need these massive leaf blowers. We called it Operation Ghostbusters because I was born in the 80s. It looks like Ghostbuster packs. And have those... Oh, yeah. It's been... first of all, thank you very much for donating the leaf blowers. They're the defense unit of the village. I gave them a crash course on how to use it. And I'd say beginning of May, like I predicted, the pasture got dried, and the first missile attacks, what was scattered around, ignited fires, and we all ran out to put them out, and we still are doing it. What's not burnt yet? I mean, half of the territory is already burnt out, but around the village it's still grass, dry grass, and we're in summertime. We're close to 100 degrees outside during the summer, and every time we have a missile attack on our area, there's fires that come right after it. Yeah, and these guys have actually been so effective at putting the fires out, and you can see it from the valley, all of these massive black burn spots. You see how close they are to our village and other villages, and the council has actually reached out to you guys and commended you for how well you've been, how effective you guys have been. David's the I'm the most experienced on that part in my village. Yeah, I mean all the cowboys and cattlemen around here, they all have them, and we all use them
on a regular basis every summer. This summer is a bit extraordinary. Also, we had a good rain season. The grass is dry and high, but we also have a war going on.
So we'll get to we're filming this 2 days after the devastating attack in Majdal Shams, which is right up the road. But before we talk about that, I want to kind of ask you about your background. This is in many ways not your first rodeo. It's not your first time having to put fires out because you cowboy, but also it's not your first war. So, as you said, you and your siblings, you grew up here. You're Israelis. You served in the army. When was your service?
I joined the military in February 28th, 1998 till February 21st, 1991. I did 3 years in infantry. That at the time it was a bit like the Marine Corps, but it's mostly infantry. Mm-hmm. I served in Lebanon a couple times, Gaza, the West Bank. During the late 80s, it was different days then. Mm-hmm. I mean, Hezbollah was one of the weaker organizations in Lebanon at the time.
You said late 80s, or was this was
late
80s? 90s?
Late 80s.
Okay. So you started in the late 80s.
I served the 88 till 91.
So this is kind of right in the middle of Lebanon 1, Lebanon 2, right? So the first Lebanon War was in...
Well, the first Lebanon War is never really know when it... We know when it started. When it really finished was year 2000 when we pulled out totally of Lebanon. I mean, during the first Lebanon campaign in 1981, we got all the way to Beirut, okay? Wow. And then we pulled back twice from Beirut. And we pulled back and we stayed and we built forts. And the idea was not to let the terrorists get to our northern border and to our northern villages, and to stop an event of the 7th of October.
Even back in the 80s.
Even back in the 80s, the Palestinians and the Shiite militias were trying to breach our borders.
What was the catalytic event? What started the Lebanon 1?
Lebanon 1 started, I mean, the Palestinians that were kicked out of Jordan in Black September of 1970, I think, all shifted into Lebanon and built, Arafat built a small army there in Lebanon. Lebanon, in 1975, went into civil war, and it was broken. It was broken as a country. It didn't really have everyone was for himself. They're Christians, the Druze, the Shiite, the Sunnite. Each one of them had militias.
It's never really been fixed since. It got fractured in 1975.
Never been fixed. No. And they were shooting missiles over to Israel in the late 70s toward the villages and the towns on the border, all through the mid-70s till 81. The trigger was the war that they sent an assassin to assassinate our ambassador in England, and that was so-called the trigger for us invading Lebanon.
Did that succeed?
Yes.
See, here I think that I'm like pretty well versed on
history and events. He got shot in his head.
Wow. What was his name?
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So 1981, you're 6 years after the Lebanese Civil War kicks off.
We were still posted in Lebanon. We kept from the Litani River south, that was like 10, 15 kilometers, 10 miles into Lebanon that the Israeli army kept.
Which is still kind of everybody's talking now about the Litani River because after 2006, we'll get to this in a minute, the UN said, okay, Hezbollah needs to go back behind the Litani River. So this is not a new conversation that we're having now. It's not a new conflict that we're having now.
No, it's a continue of something that we never finished. Okay, The Hezbollah, that's right now the major power in Lebanon, was a very weak organization. I mean, it was easier for us to deal with it. There were a bunch of dudes with AK-37, 47, what is it called, Kalashnikov, and they weren't very good fighters. Iran stepped into the picture and started funding them in every way, that they took over basically the government in Lebanon. They control Lebanon. They're the richest. The Shiite Muslims are the richest in Lebanon because Iran funds them. And in return, they built an army. An army. They can be like a terrorist organization, but they already function as an army. Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I think caught everybody off guard with October 7th, is everybody has thought Hamas was kind of this ragtag group of like the Chihuahua that's nipping at your ankles, but all the fear was in
yes,
because
Hezbollah is, we know that they're getting stronger and stronger, and the Iran are funding them and giving them high-tech weapons, and they're preparing for destroying Israel. They say it.
Yeah, very clearly.
They say it. They want to destroy Israel, and they mean what they say. It'd be better for us as the Western world to understand that when someone says we want to slaughter you, they mean it. And the problem is with Israel and its allies over the world, and the United States itself, is we say, let's talk about it. And
they don't really mean that.
Yeah, maybe let's talk about it. They say we want to slaughter you guys, and we say no. Let's talk about it. Let's get to an agreement. Like any agreement, we'll get with them.
Yeah.
They're not planning to respect from the beginning. The only reason they do agreements is for them to as a jumping place to the next spot where they'll be stronger. They want to get strong enough to destroy us.
Yeah, I mean we're chronically guilty of underestimating Islam, just severely underestimating Islam. And Hezbollah means the party of God, and Islam means submission. So, there is I want to reiterate every chance that I can. FAI is mostly in the Muslim world. We are throughout the Middle East. My history is mostly in the Muslim world. I got anchored here in our collaboration with the IDF's Good Neighbor Project in Syria, and have just had the good fortune to have a place here ever since. So we're not, I think when you hear things on the internet now, you could just immediately put them into like these polarized buckets of like either so sympathetic to the Muslim world that you adopt anti-Israel animosity, or you're so sympathetic to Israel that you just like all Muslims are barbaric monsters, and none of that is true. Neither of these polarities are true or fair, and the ideology of Islam is fundamentally violent. It's built on a perverse bloodlust, and so there are people on all sides of every fence who just want their kids to be able to grow up. We met them when we were working in Syria, which was I want to get back to your timeline, but just to kind of take a moment and talk about the Good Neighbor Project. Israel had a similar security concern. What if this pops off? Are we going to get sucked into this in the same way that we got sucked into the vortex of the Lebanese civil war?
No, people are people, and kids are kids, but the question is what kind of education, what kind of society they grow up into, and
right.
And what kind of grown-ups do they become to be? And the Islamic world, the extreme Islam on the Shiite side, and also on the Sunnite side, that is Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood, are preaching towards living under Islam law. And the battle that we're having here in Israel, in this region, is not a battle over land. It's a battle over a way of life. And Israel is just a frontier of it all. I mean, the Eastern cultures are the Islamic, and they're becoming more extreme. They're not integrating and becoming modern culture, or that's their biggest enemy. That's their biggest fear. That people will think more and not just obey.
Yeah. So this is viewed as a Western outpost. You do have the issue of just flagrant anti-Semitism.
We see it. We as Israelis see it as as this is the frontier of the Western outpost.
Yeah.
Our biggest problem is that the West itself is so wanting to live a comfortable life and not deal with reality for what it is, that they're trying to create a story that is not exactly true for the situation, and they're all going to pay the price for it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that happening in Europe.
Oh, Europe is already taken over by Islam. I mean, London, there's 58% Muslims. Amsterdam is 58% Muslims. 10, 11 big cities in England are Muslim mayors are running the city, and John is not the most known name in England these days, which it used to be, and now it's Muhammad.
John Lennon, and now it's Muhammad.
Now it's Muhammad. So, and the States is if they keep on walking down the path they're walking, they're going to deal with it 10 years down the road.
Sure.
And it is what it is. I mean, and the question is how the world deals with it. If we're going to have to stand on our own, then we'll have to stand on our own.
Yeah.
We don't have much choice.
Now, you immigrated countries as a small child. Your family moved. Are you for or against immigration?
I can accept immigration because my family migrated from Europe to the United States in the early 1920s after they were persecuted in Ukraine and in Russia. And they were refugees, and the United States opened their gates and took them in. But my family in the United States are proud Americans, and they're loyal to the United States, and they moved to and so I don't have a problem with migration to anywhere, as long as you come to the place you migrate to and you adopt the way of life. It doesn't matter who you pray for. Okay, you can go to church, synagogue, or mosque and pray for any god you want, but in the day-to-day life you have to be part of that country. I mean, if you move to Germany, obviously you have to become a bit German. You pray to whoever you want to, but their culture and the way of life, it's theirs. And the problem is that with the Islam is that they come and they live in the ghettos, and they adopt their own, and they don't let go of their old ways, and they want, and then after they get strong, they want to inflict their ways on the rest of the nation, and that's what's going to happen in France and in all of Western Europe.
What would happen here if you guys laid down the gates and just opened up?
They would kill us all.
Yeah, which is like a little bit different than like democratically coming in and
they would kill us all.
Yeah. So what was it like for you then as a young man, late 80s, early 90s? You're serving in all the different fronts in national Israel.
Like I said, I came from a family of proud Jews. And I see myself as a proud Jew and as a proud Israeli, and I had the honor to serve my country and protect my people. And obviously our kids are walking in our path because there's no other choice in Israel. And we're forever going to live on our swords.
Yeah.
We had songs written in the past about that the next generation will live under peace and we won't need an army. But, let's
Every generation you send your kids.
let's look.
You
Let's
sent
look
your
the
kids to the
situation in
army.
let's look at the situation in the eye. I don't see the Muslim nation changing so fast, and the burning hate that they have towards us is unexplained, and I can sum it in this whole situation between the Israelis and the Muslims and or the Jews and the Arabs is the day the Golda Meir said it in the early 70s, the day the Muslims will, the Arabs will love their kids more than they hate us, we'll be able to talk about peace.
Yeah.
And right now, it looks like we're very far away from that part.
Yeah. It feels further and further. You know, some nights that we're here hanging out on the porch, you and your wife, David actually married a German gal who came here, learned the language, did the whole thing, raised your family, and you guys will tell me about the good old days in the kibbutzim.
Oh yeah, that was the days in the 90s were days of make love, not war.
The 90s.
The 90s. The
U.S. had that in the 70s.
Early 90s. Early 90s. I mean,
coming at, do you think that, like, we had, you know, a big cultural revolution in the States in the late 60s through the 70s coming out of a few wars? Do you think that the impact of the Lebanon war was similar?
I think the Lebanon war bought us a time. Our enemies didn't change. Their goals didn't change. So it was peaceful years, and we were young people, and we could enjoy life more.
Yeah.
Right now, our enemies are getting stronger. Iran is standing behind everything and supporting everything. I don't understand how the world exactly is turning a blind eye, and you know, business is most important is doing business. It must be the capitalist way. You know, business is above everything. It's above values and above life itself.
Someone dug a tweet up yesterday that Barack Obama had, you know, his intern tweeted in like 2015 and said there's no world in which applying sanctions to or removing sanctions from Iran result in Iran becoming like a regional dominant force.
No.
Wisdom is justified by our children, and here we are 9 years later, and Iran is very much...
Well, Iran never... The thing is, what's interesting is that Iran never hid their intentions. They're very clear to say that...
The Iranian regime.
The Iranian regime, not the people, but they say death to Israel, death to the United States. The United States is the big devil, Israel's the little devil. And somehow everyone, you know, put their fingers in their ears while it's said and want to believe in a different kind of reality. But also before World War II, the Europeans, through Hitler on that part of psychiatry, behaved exactly the same. They wanted to believe in something better than what reality really is and what the future is going to bring on us. And the United States and Europe are doing exactly the same. I mean, if Iran says we want to destroy you, kill Israel, kill America, how can you understand it any different?
So how does that make you feel as an Israeli guy? You have your wife and kids up here in the north. What made you move this close to the border?
First of all, I love the land.
Yeah.
And this is our land and this is our country. And we're supposed to live wherever we want on our land and in our country. You know, the border was never a factor for us. Even now, if our village is not evacuated, but even now, if our village will get evacuated, I'll stay. You know, if it's my destiny to go down with the ship, then I'll go down with the ship. All good. I won't live anywhere else with my tail between my legs and whooped.
Yeah.
And if I have to fight, I'll fight.
Yeah.
No. I don't see any other path. I'm not going to go live somewhere else as a refugee and have a shitty life and I might as well, if it's my time to go upstairs, then I'll go out fighting.
I think anybody can respect that, you know. So what is your... Let me just ask you this. Do you hate Palestinians?
No, I don't hate it. I'll say it like this. I don't hate people at all. Anyone, individual. I can't target it, put my finger on an individual and say he is who he is if he's someone else. But in general, first of all, the Palestinians are making bad choices through history. They always have. They the choices they made when the British ruled the country, and the British decided to divide the country in two, give them half and the Jews half. We accepted it.
This is November 1947.
Yeah,
the original two-state solution was November 1947.
Yeah, and they didn't accept it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ever since, the Palestinians are making always the wrong decision. If they would have, in the first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, there were 200,000 Palestinians working in Kuwait, sending money to the West Bank to their families, and the whole world was against Saddam Hussein, and the Palestinians were supporting him and flying his flags after he invaded Kuwait. So the first thing, when the Americans freed Kuwait in the first Gulf War, the first thing the Kuwaitis did were kicked out 200,000 Palestinian workers.
Yeah. Man.
So they always make the bad choices.
Why do you think they supported Saddam Hussein?
I have no idea, but they always make the bad choices. Like this campaign now in Gaza against Hamas, against the Palestinian people, because Hamas is the Palestinian people, because they support it. And the thing is this: the amount of money that was poured into Gaza in the past 20 years by the world support could have turned Gaza into Singapore. If Gaza would have turned into Singapore, there would be a Palestinian nation. They would probably get also a country today already. But they took all the money that they got and built an army of terror.
Do you think, because we hear these statistics that, Hamas got voted into power. 90% of people in the West Bank support Hamas. And if they had elections in the West Bank today, it would be a very troublesome day for security in the region. But if somebody said, well, but okay, maybe the elections were rigged, or maybe these polls coming out aren't true or fair, or,
No, you see it on the streets.
Yeah.
You see it on the streets when 7th of October happened and the Hamas fighters, terrorists, came back to Gaza with with the women and children and old men and soldiers that they kidnapped in Israel. The streets were having parades, and they were parading them through the streets.
Yeah. So,
no, I don't. It wasn't rigged. It's who they are.
Yeah. So we'll come back to this. We've got one more touchstone in our timeline. So 2006, there's Lebanon 2.
Yes.
And Marco has said, Marco Moreno is our local director here. He was the architect of the Good Neighbor Project, and you'll hear more from him as things develop here on the north. But he has said to me, he's like, this isn't going to be Lebanon 3. Like, we just have another war with Hezbollah in Lebanon. It will now be the Northern War because of all of these Iranian proxies that are also entrenched on the Syrian border.
Oh, yeah.
So 2006, you're not a young man anymore. You're not a soldier. You're not a single guy. Lebanon 2, what was that experience like for you, and how does it shape the way you're reading events here?
First of all, Lebanon 2, I was on my farm. I wasn't drafted. Okay, I was
also in the north.
I was after the age of being drafted already. I could have volunteered. I could have, but there was no need. There was enough soldiers to fight it. The whole war took 30 days, around a month till it finished. So,
what were the objectives? Like, what started it? What finished it? 30 days is a tight timeline.
What started it was the Hezbollah ambushed a patrol on the border with anti-tank missiles and blew up the patrol, crossed the border, kidnapped the bodies of 2 soldiers of ours back into Lebanon, and that ignited the fire.
Sure.
Okay, and
pretty deliberately, they knew what they were doing.
No, they didn't. They had intentions to do what they did. They didn't take in consideration that it's going to break into full-out war.
Really?
Yeah. Hassan Nasrallah, their leader, said afterwards in an interview that if he knew that the outcast of his actions would lead to a full-out war, he wouldn't have done it.
This is Nasrallah.
Yeah.
So he's still the leader now.
Yeah.
Do you think that he is similarly hesitant now, or is he waiting for Iran to say,
I think he's
go?
cocky and arrogant now.
Yeah.
Because he's a lot stronger than he was.
20 years
he
ago.
has Iran. It's not that he's a lot stronger. He just sees that the whole world's against us. Okay, and Israel's worldwide becoming a leopard country.
Yeah.
That we're the bad guys. You
Yeah.
know,
Zionist has become a 4-letter word.
They're doing a very good job on selling the story that it's comfortable for them. Not necessarily that's what the story of reality is, but they're selling a story that people around the world are buying, and it's kind of twisting history and twisting facts.
Yeah.
Like we with Lebanon, we don't have any feud. Okay, we don't have any feud. Also with Iran, we don't have any feud.
Yeah.
They just have hate burning inside them.
With the Iranian regime.
Yeah.
Because the Iranian people are
the
actually
Iranian
very
people,
supportive of
Iranian
Israel.
people, we had a great relationship till the Islam revolution there, and Khomeini came to power.
Which was 1979.
Yeah.
The the Middle East has just been this like neighborhood street fight, dog fight for decades. So when I see kids now who were, I mean, like maybe alive, but probably not, or in diapers when 9/11 happened, all of a sudden having very strong opinions. We kind of look at each other a lot. We'll go over the news in our evening porch sunset and debrief the day and go, how are these kids with like blue hair and no confidence in what gender they are? They have such clear convictions about the Middle East, which has just been a quagmire for so long.
Which a lot of them also don't even know where the Middle East is.
Yeah. And
from the river to the sea, what river and what sea, they're also, it's not exactly in the clear, but it's very sexy to be on the weak side. I see them as not only against Israel specific, I think they're against the United States for what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of, it's a lot of young, troubled souls that are being fed the wrong ideas.
Yeah.
And they also don't study history very much.
Yeah, we've got a friend from Bulgaria. If you've seen Covenant and Controversy 3, you met Nikolai, and he grew up in Soviet Bulgaria. And he was the first one to really kind of turn my attention to the years back, more than a decade ago, of the temperature changing in America, because he was bewildered that a politician like Bernie Sanders would get so much support. I mean, like, this isn't... I am an American. We both appreciate democracy and, opinions and all the things. So don't come at me in the comments for this, but, Bernie Sanders is like the antithesis of a guy like Reagan. And so my friend who grew up under Soviet rule was like, how in the world, like, America, how did America take this turn? But,
No, it's not only America, it's the whole world is lost the way. I think during the Cold War, it was a lot clearer between good and bad, good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing right now with a situation globally that the line's been covered up between good and evil, and good became evil, and evil, it's like it's you're all Christian folks, right? So it's like the devil is selling us a story, and we're all falling into it.
Yeah,
that's what it is. This is pure evil. Now, in general, I don't have a problem for anyone praying for whoever he wants to. I think the extreme Islam is getting very strong, and he's getting support by the weakness of the Western cultures, what you call the blue hair demonstrators. That basically, it's like, how I'll say it, it's like a wolf will be wants to be elected to be the head of the sheep herd.
Yeah.
And he tells the sheep, the minute I'll get you elect me, I'll become a vegetarian. And they'll believe it.
Oy. So, in a world of prowling wolves, last fall, you're here, you've got pasture roundabout, herds. What does a day of work look like for you?
First of all, our life since the 7th of October, we live it from today to tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's hard to make long-term plans.
What did life look like for you on October 6th?
Well, October 6th, I got back from, I was 3 weeks back in the country after I was 3.5 months traveling through the Midwest of the United States on my motorhome.
Yeah.
With my wife and my Jack Russell dog.
Yeah.
So I was kind of sitting here on the 6th of October and trying to figure out that I'm back home again, and
this is something you guys just started doing after your youngest kid got out of the army.
Yeah.
Went into adulthood, and you felt like we have the freedom now to take a few weeks off.
We call it the big trip after the kids.
Yeah, and they got a motorhome and started cruising around from.
Yeah. We're stationed in Nebraska, and we love the Midwest. So we've been Wyoming, Montana, Oregon, Colorado, Utah. Yeah. Went all the way down to the beaches of South Texas.
All over. Great American road trip.
Oh, yeah.
So David tells this joke that, like, Jews will pray to Jerusalem, Muslims will pray to Mecca, Christians pray to Jesus, but David prays to
Wyoming and Montana. I'm a cowboy. Yeah.
So you have this great American road trip. You come back home. You're jet lagged October 6th. But I'm making this point because David and his wife work with horses and livestock, and I grew up in the military and like on the beach. I know nothing about cowboying or anything, but it's their life, their line of work, and what brought them up, up here in the Golan. And then
the 7th of October happened. And ever since, let's put it like this, good dreams are something that I'm don't remember anymore. Nightmares all the time. Sleep with one eye open. And a lot of sadness and grief, and we're waiting to get to the part of the hope that will be after, hopefully.
Yeah. So Hezbollah has been throwing in since October 8th, and the North has lived in this, like, any day now, any day now, any day now.
Yeah.
And you guys, I got back, I was in the States on October 7th, and got back after Christmas, right before New Year's, and I think it took that long for you guys to even put music on.
Oh, for the TV. First few months, we couldn't even listen to music. It was not something that was possible. We were digesting what happened to our people. It's a nightmare that came true.
Yeah.
We couldn't imagine it in our wildest dreams, but it did happen, and we're not finished yet. We still have 115 people in captive. The Northern Front can't be left the way it is. I mean, the Iranians and the Hezbollah say, we want to slaughter you.
Right.
There's 20 to 30,000 crazy militia Arabs that the Iranis gathered from the whole Middle East and pushed them up against the Golan Heights border 8 miles this way and 8 miles that way. We have Hezbollah.
Right.
If they're gonna try to breach our borders and go to a joint attack, we'll be fighting in our villages. Everyone.
Do you feel equipped to be able to fight village by village?
We're getting there. It's a process. We also have been living, like I say, the Western world wants a good life. We want to go on vacations. We want to eat good. We want to have barbecues. We want to drink our beer. buy new cars, build new houses. We also lived like that till the 7th of October. We got smacked and upside down and reality check.
Yeah.
So things are different now. We're getting better on the part of defense. The country is coming to terms that the people in the villages need to have weapons to defend themselves. That the army not necessarily can handle the whole part of defending us. And it's in our hands.
I think, any red-blooded American would say, okay, you live this close to the border. Surely you guys have a stash of, like, munitions here in the village, right? Like, every village has its own kind of self-defense thing.
I'll say something that from my tour in the States the past few years, every summer, and I talk to people, local people, and they all say, like, and we talk about gun control and weapons, then they all say, like, you should know you're from Israel.
Right.
And I always explain to them that we have a lot less guns than you guys in the States have.
Yeah. I mean, most people do. Let's face it.
We don't have, you can't go to Walmart and buy a gun in Israel. It's a bit of a different process. But since the 7th of October, it is changing. Okay, it is changing. People are having more weapons. The army is tutoring every village to have a defense unit in the village. That we have also M16s and not only pistols, and they train us, and we're getting prepared for the worst. That kind of shows that we're getting close to a very dark times, because the extreme Islam is trying to close upon us now. The world is busy trying to keep us quiet, and that will basically lead us to be slaughtered. The United States, with all due respect, which is our best ally, biggest ally, is not exactly reading the game for what it is. And the world doesn't want to get dirty. The world doesn't like wars. They don't like conflicts. They want to have a nice, comfy life. Let's do business, make money. But reality is what it is.
I think many people would even, if they were honest, they would say, you guys deserve all the conflict. You deserve all the threats.
I can tell you that from my point of view, I wouldn't want an American soldier getting killed for me. But give me. Give me. Let me. I will do the job.
Why would there have been such stringent gun control in a very small country, smaller than New Jersey, in the neighborhood that you're in before October 7th?
That's we're dealing with, this is already becoming inner politics of let's put it like this, till the early 90s, the villages around the borders had a weapon room with hundreds of guns each village. Okay. And the army and the country has started to collect it. Said, we'll protect you. The army will collect. We don't have a threat. I think it went, the amount of weapons went down. Like, farmers used to go out to the field with a rifle. Because if someone from Lebanon would try to cross over and kill him, he'd have how to defend himself and protect himself. If it was from Lebanon, if it was from Jordan, if it was from the Egyptian border before we had peace with them, and after. But since then, I think the country's kind of went into a sleeping mode that we don't need such a big army. The days of big wars are finished. Okay, that was the ideology. There won't be a big war anymore. And the way
Did you believe that at that time?
I never believed it. No, I always looked at it as I do agree. I'm more of the part that I think we need a regional war with Iran, overthrow the regime there. Israel will be very hard to do it on its own. The Iranian people want it. The Israeli people want it. The Sunnite Muslims want it. But the American administration needs to step up to the plate.
Did you feel that? So the Iranian Revolution, the regime stepped in 1979. Did you immediately think like, oh God, this is not going to play well, or did it?
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, they did that. They had listen. I am part American, so I do follow. They did have the American kidnapped from the embassy.
Right.
That they kept kidnapped. I don't remember for how long, but for quite a while.
So this has been an ongoing strategy.
From day one, the Islamic regime burnt American flags in the streets. So if they burnt American flags, that means they hate us too.
Okay. So today, I think it's day 295 or 296 since October 7th. And what is today, Monday? Was it?
Today is Monday. 2 days ago we had 2 days ago we had 12 kids blown out of the sky in a village a couple miles from us towards the border. One of them vanished. They didn't even find the body.
Yeah. So yesterday they did a funeral. You'll see photos, and there's 11.
Because the 12th one, they didn't find the body. He disintegrated. It was a heavy rocket.
Yeah.
And they declared
50
him dead.
50 kgs of explosives. This rocket was made in Iran.
Yeah, in Iran.
Got schlepped over to Hezbollah in South Lebanon. It was fired from South Lebanon and hit Majdal Shams at 6. It was fired at 6:18. I think it struck, seconds later, 6:19.
Kids were all playing soccer in the playground
on a Saturday night.
And 12 kids got blown up.
Yeah, and at least 12 more are seriously injured in the hospital. So we could hear the medical evacs, the choppers going over.
Yeah. No, it was a rough late afternoon. They were shooting 30. It was probably between 50 to 100 missiles and mortars and drones that the Hezbollah were firing over at the time.
Yeah, it was it was part of a broader barrage at the north, which has just become business as usual.
Business as usual, and it's a Russian roulette. I mean, it's like it could hit in our village exactly like it hit there. It could hit tomorrow in our village. 2 weeks ago, two parents.
Let's just hope my mom's not watching this.
Two parents got blown up in their car 5 miles down the road from here. Left 3 orphans. 2 days ago, 12 kids got blown out of the sky playing soccer. The world is busy saying to Israel, okay, you can retaliate, but don't do something too extreme. It might break into full-out war. Now, I don't understand how exactly we're supposed to deal with a bunch of crazy Shiite Islam that their ideology is hate and destruction.
Yeah.
So,
I want to ask you just like on a personal level what your read is on that, and we'll talk about some of the dissenting, like the BBC just everybody started using headlines like something blew up, something fell in Majdal. We don't really know where it came from. In the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights or the annexed Golan Heights, which is part of the you kind of had it coming. Like, if you weren't here, but most people don't know about the Druze. It's a Druze city, Majdal Shams, which means Tower of the Sun. So, who are the Druze?
Well, the Druze are a minority that basically their religion broke off from Islam.
Yeah, so it's an Arab people group.
They're Arab-oriented. They have a different prophet that suddenly showed up on the way, and it kind of like broke off mainstream of Islam and was created.
So how does the world of extreme Islam, Hezbollah, these different, how do they see folks like the Druze who defected from the way of Muhammad?
They see them exactly like ISIS saw the Yazidi people and the Kurds in Iraq and in Syria. They're traitors and need to be killed.
Right. Like just insects to squash.
Yeah.
So did Hezbollah go, oh my gosh, a rocket fell on a soccer game. We didn't mean to do that, and it was the Druze. We feel so bad. Or
no, the Hezbollah, lying these days is not a crime anymore, and so the Hezbollah just said we didn't do it.
And you can see there's like time-stamped, they're boasting about this big barrage that they're doing, and we're firing it at the north, we're firing it at Majdal, like this is us, we're doing, and then it falls onto a soccer game, which in this horrible Russian roulette that we've been playing, Marco used the analogy of, like I was saying it's like ping pong, and he said, well, it's like if Israel and Hezbollah are lighting matches and throwing it at each other one at a time, but we're in a room this big, full of gunpowder kegs and puddles of kerosene all over at some point,
they
someone's
threw a
gonna light
match and it hit a can of kerosene.
Yeah, so now Hezbollah is like,
oops. Well,
immediately started to say, it wasn't us. Now, one of the Druze leaders, and I can't remember his name, but a BBC correspondent quoted him by name.
Walid Jumbalat, probably, in Lebanon.
Fed the party line that it wasn't Hezbollah, it was part of an Iron Dome interceptor. Now, you can see the video of the strike. Shrapnel from any kind of interception does not create that kind of explosion. It was 50 kgs.
There's pieces of missiles there with Arab scripture on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I guess what I want to kind of lay out for people is there's, like up until May of 1967, Majdal Shams was part of Greater Syria, right? This was part of Syria, and then in the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel takes the Golan Heights, pushes all the way to Damascus, scares the snot out of the Syrians, retreats back to the Golan, keeps the high ground because the Syrians were firing on the kibbutzim in the valley from here.
Yeah.
From here. So there's our generational distinctions in the Druze community, and even regionally in Israel. The Druze in Israel, there's Druze in Lebanon, Druze in Syria.
The Druze don't want their own country. The Druze, they live as a minority in every country they're at. So if they're and they need to survive because they're always like a small tribe. So in Lebanon, they're very weak. And the Shiite are very strong. So their politicians, Walid Jumbalat, is even if he knows the truth, he won't say it.
He's going to do the party line because
he's going to do the party line.
Yeah.
In Syria, Syria is all divided up into tribes. They're fairly on our side, the Druze. The Druze in Israel, basically in the Golan Heights and in the Galilee, are because they live in Israel and they have a good quality of life, they're sending money over to support their communities of the Druze in Syria and in Lebanon because they're poor.
Yeah. And the Druze are very highly educated, very...
Oh, yeah. They serve in the army. They're part of... they're government workers. They're part of society. When Israel was founded in 1948, the Druze in the Galilee made a treaty with Israel, and they're part of the country.
Yeah,
and the agreement is they serve the country, but we have to protect them. And what happened up in Majdal Shams right now is kind of
a test,
breach of the contract.
It's hard being so popular.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, there's you could drive around a Druze village, and I feel like if I throw a rock, I hit a dentist's office. Like they're I've lived in Kurdistan. I know the Kurds. I've met the Yazidis. The Druze are a really very unique and impressive people group, and they're like if you need something done, you call the Druzes. They just. And your butcher is a Druze guy. Yeah,
no, I work with them. I cowboy with them. They're our neighbors, and they're part of our life. I do part of my shopping up there. I do business with them. It's yeah. So I'm Jewish and they're Druze. There's nothing to it.
But you're both Israelis.
We're all Israelis. Yes.
Yeah.
We're all Israelis on that part.
So we're 36 hours maybe since the attack in Majdal. What's been weighing on you? Yesterday in the village was like a combination of Yom Kippur and Fallen Soldiers Day. It was, you could hear a pin drop in the village.
The birds weren't twitching yesterday in the whole Golan Heights. The birds weren't twitching, and it's
it was weird.
Whatever. First of all, if it hit the Druze or hit our village, it doesn't make a difference. It's the same. If they're Jewish or not, it means nothing. It could have hit in here exactly like it could hit there. There are neighbors. There are brothers in arms, and we rely on each other, and our existence is built on that. So we're all grieving the 12 families, 12 souls that were lost, young innocent kids, and it goes between anger and sadness, and we want, I wouldn't say we want revenge. We want it never to happen again.
Yeah. And I think that's an important statement. It's not that you want revenge; you want it to just never happen
again. And I do believe, I am in the side that do believe that Israel needs to be extremely violent with the other side, no matter what the cost is, for them to understand that they can't keep on behaving like that.
Yeah.
Now, it's very hard to get through to these kind of people. Like I said, the day they love their kids more than they hate us, it'll be easier. And right now, they don't have a problem sacrificing their kids. We do.
Yeah.
And they're playing on that we do. They're willing to sacrifice. So if they're willing to sacrifice, that means we need to take a very high price from them to make them understand.
Yeah. I think David's communicating something I've heard from a number of people in the North. I don't know anybody who is just drooling for war. Nobody wants, because you're going to lose a lot of soldiers.
There aren't any winners in wars.
War is hell. Like, it's a bad game, and no one's going to win this game. Wins. Everybody's lost already. But I feel like in the North, a lot of folks are like, we have to do it and get it done and over with, because if we keep kicking the can up the road since the mid-70s to the early 80s and like just kind of solving it as it comes up, then you know that if you kick the can 50 paces up the road, then each one of those 50 steps that you take, you get closer and closer. That collision is going to escalate, and this is decades deep now. I mean, longer than I've been alive. So, there's a difference between... I mean, if anybody's watching this, we're probably at like a 45-minute mark pushing. This is going to be like an hour-long podcast. Anybody watching this, I think, is probably sympathetic to Israel. I can't imagine that an anti-Zionist is going to make it 45 minutes into a porch conversation in the north of Israel. But I think, so I'm preaching to the choir, but I think it's an important point to make that I have never met an Israeli that was eager for war. And I know in any society, like at some point you're going to find somebody who wants to do something crazy. You do have Jewish extremists, but even when we were working in Syria, I remember I'd be on the plane flying into Israel. I'd be at a winery here in the Golan, like just side by side with a stranger who'd go, "Hey, why are you an American in the Golan Heights? You're not Jewish. Why are you here? What are you doing? A burger joint down in the valley." And I'd say, "Well, we're doing da-da-da." And they, like, tears would well up in their eyes every time. And they would just be like, "God, it's a genocide over there." And they felt helpless. There was nobody that was like, "Yeah, thank God somebody's finally dealing with those Syrians."
Well, the Arabs, when they're so full of hate, and it's not necessarily towards us Israelis and Jews, between themselves, they behave exactly the same.
And nothing unites the Arab world, though, like Jew hatred.
Hating us, that's what unites them. Otherwise, they'd be busy slaughtering each other, and they wouldn't have time for us.
Yeah.
But and right now, I guess they're Iran's big idea was to surround us by forces of evil, and eventually destroy us.
Yeah.
Now, they say it, they're doing it, they're pushing towards it.
Not just for like 9 months or a few years. They've been as soon as they took Iran, the Iranian regime.
Ever since they had a couple of years break when they were fighting Iraq, but Yes, ever since. And the world doesn't want to see the truth for what it is.
Mm.
Iran has oil.
Mm-hmm.
Iranians are very smart people
Mm-hmm.
to do business with them. They're good businessmen.
Mm.
And the world doesn't want to give up on this nice, comfortable opportunity for a business investment.
Mm.
But it's going to cost us all.
Yeah.
And I grew up on The Good and Bad and the Ugly, the movie. And there's a scene there that the ugly is sitting in the bath, and he says, "You want to shoot, don't talk." And he shoots through the and he shoots the guy that's standing when he's in the tub. And the West is a bit behaving like this. America is always, let's talk. And how can you what do you wanna exactly breach? We're not doing sitting a bunch of lawyers in Wall Street around the table and trying to figure out a business proposition and cutting a business deal.
Yeah.
This ideology wants to slaughter you.
Yeah.
So they want to start with us,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll get to you. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Keep on talking?
My last question for you is, obviously October 7th was a cataclysmic day in Israel. And Israel will never go back to October 6th. It's just the nature of grief and loss. You'll always kind of carry that with you moving forward. Do you have any fear or concern that Israel might lose her soul in the grief of a horrible day and a war that just doesn't end? When you say that, Lebanon 2 is 30 days long, I'm like, we're 295 days in.
I think we're on we haven't reached bottom yet. I think the region is going to go into a full-out scale war. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, it's also what I believe should happen, because I don't see for us any opportunity to survive in this tough neighborhood if we won't have it out. Mm-hmm. And regional war means basically World War III. Yeah. We're talking Russia supporting Iran. Yeah. American has no choice but to support us. Europe, as usual, will just talk about and condemn everyone and say let's get back life to normal. Mm-hmm. But I don't see any option. In World War II, there wasn't any option.
Right.
That's all. There was no option. So America got dragged in after Pearl Harbor, but they would have get dragged in anyway, because, if Hitler would have defeated Europe and conquered Europe, he'd go after the United States afterwards. So it would have happened anyway.
Actually, he was in dialogue with Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem at that point, who said,
the Arabs, yeah.
This is on record. He said, "Hey, Hitler, when you're done, and we also have like a rat problem here in Israel, if you could help us out a little bit." And Hitler said, once we ethnically cleanse Europe of Jewry, and your family's living there, then we'll come down here, we'll help you out there. So he would have gone from Europe through the Middle East, Asia.
He tried to. The British kicked his ass in the deserts of North Africa. He was trying to come through Spain.
Wow.
And through the northern part of Africa towards the Middle East. He was.
Well, maybe we'll have that conversation in a later episode.
Okay.
We'll try to do this. It's wartime. We're not making any promises about the frequency, but we'll try to sit down maybe every couple weeks or so.
Yeah. Well, it more that after the mortar attack on Majdal Shams and 12 kids that lost their lives, I mean, I felt inside, it's time, because me and Stephanie have been talking about doing it for a while already. 2 or 3
months now, yeah.
And we didn't get to that point, but after yesterday, I kind of felt I need to get things off our chests, and into the air.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that you would do that with us. It's 2024. You've got a smartphone. You could do that in any channeling place, but
no. It ain't my personality to do it at all. So
mine neither. Yeah, but we've got two people who hate being on the camera. But we want to say thank you to the Frontier Alliance International
I want to
family.
send a message, and that this what we're doing. That's the message. I mean, we're happy for the support of anyone to support our existence. And we're fighting for our survival, and we will survive with our allies, but we don't have much choice except for surviving.
Yeah, it'd be better with the allies, but
yes, but it would be less painful with the allies. Maybe my family will still exist.
Yeah. Yep, that's our casual porch conversation here in the Golan Heights. Yeah, so thank you guys again for supporting some different things we've been able to do here in the village. David and I will do something soon to kind of outlay.
Let's see how the war develops. I mean, we did attack. We did got hit hard, so we're all waiting for us to retaliate and hit back in Lebanon. Let's see where that goes.
Yeah. Yep, we hear the jets flying now. If I'm honest, I expected a louder day and a louder night last night. But yep. Anyway, thank you guys for your prayers, your support, your solidarity, and in the YouTube comments, tell David what your favorite cowboy western movie is. Just for
okay.
What's your favorite cowboy western movie?
I think Young Guns.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen. My grandfather was he'd call himself a cowboy. He had
Well, you have Lonesome Dove, but that's a series.
No, but if my grandpa was a trucker, so anytime when he was home and we were there visiting, if grandpa was home, it was a western movie on. So I feel like I've just.
Yeah, but that was probably the old John Wayne.
Oh my
ones.
gosh, that man had a framed photo of John Wayne.
Of John Wayne.
So, anyway, that's our lighter note. That's what I wanted to land on. Thank you guys. Please pray for the northern front, the Golan Heights, and not just our side of the line. There's kids on all sides of the lines. There's human beings on all sides of the lines. And so may we have peace, secure peace soon and swiftly. And but in the meantime, we'll try to introduce you to the north.
Yeah.
So thank you, David.
Thank you all.